It's the insecurity versus security. How does an insecure person behave in order to get people to do things that don't threaten them or do what they want, versus how does a secure person behave in order to get people to do things or they don't need them to do the things. Instead, they're thinking, I don't necessarily want to be with someone or be in this environment if someone's going to do this thing. That's just disrespectful, period. Right? So
I don't know many women that would hear a man say, I'm not going to follow random girls on Instagram and like their pictures, and I'm not going to hang out with girlfriends without you around, and I'm not going to go out and party and be like, I don't want that.
Right.
Like, that's also what women want. And that's the whole thing too. If you start by telling somebody how you are going to do the same thing that you expect them to do,
I agree with that, yeah.
They will respect you and the whole conversation and understand better from the very beginning.
When you're a man and you're so trying to not lose the girl because you don't want to upset her, that's when you become controlling, because you're trying to protect yourself at her expense.
But would you say the other guy that she was with was controlling for telling her not to drink alcohol?
We don't know what the situation, I mean,
but if she told, okay, well, let's just take it at what he said.
Right.
Which, I'm not saying that's the truth, but she was not allowed to drink alcohol.
Yeah, that's controlling if that's right. If I say, look, hey, I'm not going to date someone who drinks alcohol. That's just, just like I'm not going to date someone who smokes cigarettes. Sorry. I'm just, I'm not going to do it. Right. Like, you can do it if you want to, but I just want you to know, or if you want to see me casually, that's fine, but I'm not going to get in a serious relationship with someone I'm not going to get in a serious relationship with someone who goes out to nightclubs. It's just, I'm not going to get in a serious relationship with someone who talks to their exes. Sorry, it's just not my thing.
Yeah, and that's a lot easier to do in the beginning. Right. He's now in a relationship-ish thing, right? And now it's harder to do because it's easier to, like you just said, establish those boundaries from the very beginning, and then you don't really have to have as many boundary conversations because you've kind of laid it all out there in the very beginning. And if they chose to stay, then they're going to do those things.
Right.
But yeah, I see where you're coming from. You definitely have to explain it, and you've done a good job explaining it, because it would be hard for people to understand that by him not really doing anything, he's still being controlling, but it's more so he's controlling his actions to get what he wants from her by people pleasing.
Right. Yeah, because you have to think about, where does this come from? And that's why it's the insecurity versus security. How does an insecure person behave in order to get people to do things that don't threaten them or do what they want, versus how does a secure person behave in order to get people to do things or they don't need them to do the things. Instead, they're thinking, I don't necessarily want to be with someone or be in this environment if someone's going to do this thing, right?
And they're okay with letting that go because they're not trying to make the person into what they want.
Right.
They accept people because it's like the line, right? So if you say, like, I don't date people who smoke cigarettes, that's your line. You're not changing this person.
Right.
If they want to change, then that's fine.
Right.
But you believe that is one of your boundaries that you have.
Right.
And what type of partner you want to have. And you're not trying to enforce that onto the person you're talking to.
Right.
If they're like, no, I'm going to still smoke, you're perfectly okay being like, you're entitled to that and moving on. Whereas if it was the opposite and someone was like, well, no, I'm going to smoke, then they would be like, no, you have to stop because I just told you that I don't like it.
Exactly.
Like, they're trying to influence the person rather than accepting what it actually is.
Yeah, exactly.
And the person can change their mind, but that person made it on their own.
Exactly. Because they're like,
degree.
I value this relationship or this person more than I value this other behavior or thing.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's
and
sort
it's
of
also
like,
not a beneficial thing. Like, smoking is not beneficial to you. Drinking all the time is not beneficial to you. So it's different if they're like, I don't even know what, like, the weirdly, if they were like, you have to stop exercising or something. I don't want to date somebody that exercises. That would be really weird.
But it's just rude in general. Just get shit faced in front of someone in general. Like, it's like, and especially when you
because you're not responsible for yourself,
or you can't control your body at that. Like, that's just disrespectful. Period. Right. So But that's a different point, But I think what it comes down to is a lot of times guys face this issue, right? Is that because they've heard the advice from us where a guy will be like, all right, so if I'm dating a girl in a serious relationship, she shouldn't have guy friends that she hangs out with, right? And they're like, so if I tell her you can't have guy friends, the woman's like, that's controlling. And it is, because you can't be like, you can't have guy friends. Right? That's controlling because it comes from an insecure place.
I don't think they do it the way that will get them the most understanding.
Because the answer really is not to say you can't have guy friends. It's to say, I don't like dating someone who hangs out with guys. I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel very good. And I don't appreciate that, right?
I would say they'd have even better success than what you just said if they approached it as, hey, we're in a serious relationship, or, we're at that level where we are about to be exclusive or in an official relationship. And we need to talk about the respect of our relationship. And out of respect for you, I would not have female friends, and I would not, hang out with them with you not around. I wouldn't do this. And I expect the same from the person that I'm with in return. If you talk about what you're going to do.
Right. I agree.
And then it's the same thing that you're asking somebody else.
Right.
If they don't agree to that, that person's not for you, because you just said it in the best possible way that you could. But I don't know many women that would hear a man say, I'm not going to follow random girls on Instagram and like their pictures, and I'm not going to hang out with girlfriends without you around, and I'm not going to go out and party and be like, I don't want that.
Right.
Like, that's also what women want. And that's the whole thing too, is like, if you start by telling somebody how you are going to do the same thing that you expect them to do.
I agree with that. Yeah.
They will respect you and the whole conversation and understand better from the very beginning. I think
that's true. It's a matter of the phrasing. And,
the phrasing is important for sure.
And what the expectation actually is, right? So it's like, look, this conversation should have happened when you first became exclusive. But if you didn't, you can still have the conversation, but you have to make that your boundary. But you start with a light boundary, which is, I don't like this, right? Saying, I'm not doing this. There's a reason why I'm not doing it, because I have respect for you. I'm not going to hang out with girls. I agree. You can say you're part of it, that I'm not. I don't have friends that are female. I don't hang around,
Because you have to think about, because I bring that up because you have to think about women, especially women who are going to be afraid of controlling men. If she hears him talk about what he's going to do, and it's the same thing that he's about to draw a boundary of her, it does not come off as controlling, because you're talking about what you're going to do and how that shows the respect for her. And now you're like, and I'm having the boundary of, that is what I don't like. Like you hanging out with these guys. And, I would like the same respect back. So if we're going to continue to be in a relationship, that's what I expect from my partner.
Yeah. And it can even be lighter as if you're not okay with that, like, then I have to think about whether I want to be in this relationship. Right. It's a light way. So, because you never want to be an ultimatum or because then it starts to be on the more controlling when you're like, if you don't do this, ultimately a boundary says not what the other person needs to do. It says what you're going to do. Right. And so it's up to them. They can do whatever they want to do. You're expressing, look, you can do whatever you want to do. However, if you do these things, this is what I'm going to do. Right. And it has to come across in a non-angry, not insulted way, and a very secure way, meaning that I am making this choice. I'm setting this boundary, not because I'm trying to force you to do the thing that I want you to do, but because I have enough respect for myself that I don't want to be around someone who does these things, or I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who's doing those things, and I'm willing to lose you or suffer the loss because I have that much respect for myself. And that's the thing, is like, when you're a man and you're so trying to not lose the girl because you don't want to upset her, that's when you become controlling, because you're trying to protect yourself
right.
at her expense, as opposed to having respect for yourself and saying that this is the man that I am. You know, this is what I believe. This is how the conditions in which I will allow someone to be in my life, because this is my standards.
This is the relationship that I'm looking for.
Right.